Let's get on with the real business of the day.
Let's do it.
We love cake.
I'm just going to quickly lower your mic.
Hello, welcome to another episode of This is an Ambitious Podcast with myself and Bez. Hello, Bez.
Everyone.
This is a podcast all about ambition, grounded in the marketing and advertising world, and it's talking to the most ambitious marketers and their ambitious plans and what they've succeeded and what they've failed in. And today, very excited to have Josh Boydell-Smith, who is the head of brand and marketing at Bells of Lazonby, a family-owned bakery on the edge of the lakes. And he is responsible in part, or he might claim complete responsibility, for developing a free-from brand called We Love Cake that paid £1 million to sponsor this podcast today. So if you also like that opportunity, please to get in touch. Are you a cake fan, Bez?
You know what? I actually love cake. Like, you won't believe how much I love cake. Boxing Day this year, I actually gave up cake and sugar. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
And so you've just come along at the wrong time for me.
Oh, yeah. We've been sampling it before we came on, and Bez has had to restrain himself. Yeah. And also, Josh, you also worked at Kellogg's as well. And Josh used to be in a band, which maybe we'll get on to. So Josh...
And he's wrote the We Love Cake chorus for us all today, sir.
Yeah. And he has a new song.
Have you done a We Love Cake chorus yet?
Not done a jingle.
Maybe we could
do a couple of maracas on it.
No, I think that'd be a good jingle. And if you know, we've got the chorus already written.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, we can give it a go.
Cake,
the lyrics
it writes itself.
Yeah, it writes itself.
Josh, you're the fifth person in history to ever be interviewed by Bez. How does that feel?
Feels great. Yeah. Driving here, I'd obviously the Mondays on to refresh myself. It took me back to living in Manchester and stuff like that. So it's quite a strange crossover of I was an aspiring musician, then went into business, and now sat in front of Bez. It feels pretty good.
He's just moved into business.
As a successful businessman.
Well, we try. Yeah, we try. We're more successful than my band, I think. So.
Well, that's a good thing then.
Josh, so you're going through like your background and stuff. You're something of an innovator. And that's kind of driven like what you're doing now. Is that sort of desire to sort of stand out? Is that something that sort of drives you? You started in telesales and working your way up into marketing. I think it's a really fascinating story as well.
I've done many things in my career, but definitely just having that will to sort of work. Always wanted to work and do well at the job in hand. And that's taken me from sort of bar work. I went to university, didn't particularly enjoy university. It wasn't the right thing for me to do. And then, formed a band while being in university, tried to take that as far as I could. Moved to Manchester, very much kind of just got a train, came here with no accommodation. Me and my brother were staying in an empty house that someone owned. And so just had that sense of adventure and been very lucky to sort of...
So is this is the band days of you?
Yeah, both. I tried to sort of cut my teeth in the music industry, and I had a little bit of success with that. And we thought, we were gathering momentum and getting signed. But you know what the early days are like, Bez, there's no money knocking about, is there? And, it was really hard to balance going travelling and doing the music. And I'd had a job fall through in Manchester, and I thought, well, I could either, stay and try and do something, or I had to go home with my, the tail between my legs. So I just chose to stay. Yeah. And it was a pretty rough ride, but then I eventually got a job in customer service inbound, sort of telesales at Kellogg's, and that kind of just opened a world of opportunity for me, really.
Yeah. So is that a sort of hardship of like trying to get the band off the ground, and obviously you're probably scrimping and saving and getting by as best you could. Are there valuable lessons from that part of your life? Do they influence you now?
I think they still influence me now. I think it's like I actually quite like the grind of if you're going to build a brand, nothing's easy like that. If you're gonna be in a band, say it's like there's a lot of times where it's not going easy, and then when you do get the wins, you appreciate it. And I think always got to try and move forward. Like being in business, I think developing product in consumer packaged goods, the statistic is something like 95% of innovation fails within the first year. So, the tricky second album syndrome is a constant when you try to develop and launch product.
So from rock and roll to marketing, and you said you was at university, how did you make that step into marketing? Or had you studied at uni? Was that what was...
No, I'd done an architecture, a Bachelor of Arts. I wanted to be an artist, so I kind of painted and was really into my music. But I remember the advice at the time from people around you. They were like, "What, how are you going to support yourself?" I was lucky enough to get the job at Kellogg's, and I remember turning up for the interview, and I couldn't answer any question or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? I was absolutely clueless about business or whatever. And they said, we've got kind of a role for you. I think the hiring manager felt a bit sorry for me. And then I was lucky enough in Kellogg's to just always try to just do the best that I can. And then I was asked to do a role on secondment in the marketing team as product portfolio manager for a year. And then onto that, I went on to working with the brands, the kids brands and Cocoa Pops and all the rest of it like that. I just never said no to anything really. I just did as much as I could, tried, learn. I was like with a lot of people that had done business degrees, and there was a lot of talent in there, but I was just lucky enough to kind of immerse myself and do as much as I can to learn.
Was it like your grand plan to get into marketing, or was it just you kind of found yourself?
I think I was always attracted to marketing and advertisement, probably more so advertisement. But I found that with marketing, if you've got an entrepreneurial flair, if you like people, if you're creative, marketing kind of all wrestled that into sort of one ball really. It was kind of organic, but chaotically organic at the same time. Sure. And I never really thought, this is what I'm going to do next. It just kind of, unfolded.
Well, you know what? One thing I picked up on there before, and which we picked on in every conversation we've had with whoever's on your side of the city.
Yeah.
And that is the word, never say no.
Yeah.
Always say yeah.
I think you've got to almost have, especially if you try to create something, almost like a deluded sense of optimism as well.
Yeah.
Coming from sort of a musician background, you've got to, you've got to believe that. I think there's a really great quote by Noel Gallagher. It's like he went around telling everyone he was the best band in the world until he was. Do you know what I mean?
When you went into We Love Cake, it sounds like you were, we went into Bells, and then We Love Cake became a thing.
Yeah.
You were kind of something of a disruptor, it sounds like, within that business. Now that the brand We Love Cake is established and it's listed in major supermarkets, like you said, what's the ambition for that? Also, from a personal point of view, what are you hoping to achieve?
From a Bells position, I mean, I'd gone into the business, and our sort of first attempt at a new brand for them was a brand called Bells and Whistles, and it was absolutely fantastic. But we scaled it to just under sort of about £1 million in the first few years, and then COVID hit, and it just kind of just took that brand out of market, so we didn't have any resilience on that. And then we looked at our sort of portfolio and thought, well, We Love Cake had a very, very small footprint at the time, but we're like, the kind of the flavors and the taste of it and the quality was unmatched versus anything that was in the market. And that, I think a lot of that is testament to, we're 80 years as a family business this year. It's not my family, but there's a lot of people that know how to bake on that site. That's a real piece of edge that we have versus our competitor, that we've got bakers that are absolutely amazing at doing what they do. From a heritage perspective, we were very clear that we wanted to be number 2 in the market from a volume and value perspective. We reached number 2 this year in volume, but we're very clear that to be number 1, we'd have to be an inferior product being sold at a lot lower price. So we were like, no, we're going to stick at quality, but we're happy being number 2.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I think quality is always important, and it's worth paying that extra for.
Yes. So the ambition is to really cement ourselves as that second position, as always a disruptor of the first.
Was that obviously there's like ambition to be like the quality brand, but is that driven by, like they taught Henry Ford had said people would have just asked for faster horses instead of a motor car, for example? Is it a case of, do you listen to what the market's asking for, or is it a case of taking a punt, going, I think this like genuinely nice, free from range, I think this is what they need.
What we saw a gap for was like people that have food intolerances or want to avoid certain things still want to have fun when they eat a cake, and that was like kind of the positioning piece, that they want really good quality and to have a bit of fun with it. When you buy a cake for a birthday or something like that, the market was very much medical, and it was like, what am I avoiding and stuff like that. And as you were saying before about, your diet's changed to be more wholesome and nutrient dense and less processed or whatever, but there's still a joy in that, isn't there? People, when you eat food, you want to have a great experience.
Well, it's one of the greatest pleasures in life. If you're not getting extreme pleasure from what you're eating, then you're missing out on something.
Exactly.
So obviously, We Love Cake feels like it's like a rocket ship. Is going really well. But what's the most ambitious thing you've done that has perhaps failed?
There's been plenty really, but I think launching the first brand Bells and Whistles was really ambitious. I think it was possibly just a little bit too early for the market, maybe. There was some expensive mistakes that which we learned all the lessons the second time.
But how did you feel about it? With obviously you were part of that.
I was gutted,
Yeah.
It really stings that, and we had to go back to the drawing board. So when that was gone, my branded portfolio was down to being very small again. So I think it just made me more determined to do it, to succeed in it, and bring people on that journey. It's not how many times you get knocked down; it's how many times you get back up and go again, isn't it? So thankfully we broke through that barrier and we're scaled and we're at a more comfortable place, but still can't be complacent and have to be going after it still. So.
Yeah, cool. And then sort of conversely to that, what's been your biggest win?
There's been plenty of those as well. I mean, a few years ago we took We Love Cake over to Australia. It got to number one in the market very, very quickly, but due to shipping tariffs and stuff like that, again we had a failure there where we had to come out. So big bit of business that we got to number one. That hurt, but we've focused on the UK, and I think really being backed by Tesco, if there's any doubt that you've got the single biggest retailer and really backing it in distribution and stuff, I think that's been a pretty good win, really.
Going from Kellogg's to a lesser known brand, not a household name. Was that a big leap for you? Was that is it kind of blind faith, or just saying yes to seeing the opportunity?
I loved living in Manchester. You've got all the musical influence that had brought me here, and all the cultural sort of piece.
A lot of people say that as well. It's like you're responsible for quite a lot.
Well, not me personally, but the city itself.
So I just noticed at Kellogg's that it's an absolute it's huge, and it's a brilliant business. But I really wanted to go right to learn the entrepreneurial side, and the second generation family owner Michael Bell, who's involved at board level of the business now, was a real innovator, and I had several interviews with him, and he kind of described the business, and he kind of give me a bit of a field to experiment, and that was a key driver of the move, was knowing that I was going to a business that was willing to sort of take risks, wanted to scale, but it was a massive challenge to go from like in the city working blue chip side business to then going back to where I'd essentially grown up.
It sounds to me like it's like a creative outlet for you, this role.
I've always been attracted to entrepreneurs and creators and stuff. So it gives me a legitimized revenue stream day to day to kind of be creative and scale things and make things. I love working with people. I think the more senior you get in marketing, unfortunately, you kind of you pull away from the day-to-day creative, and it becomes about managing budgets and distributions and the rest of it. But it becomes a different beast, I think, once you get a bit more scale.
I think you got into marketing when you started with your band.
I
mean, that's what gave you the taste for it, I reckon. Because you've self-marketed your band.
I mean, we were very much like, we managed ourselves, and we when we got a deal with Rimmel London. I remember like getting a phone call. I was still at work and stuff like that, and they were like, "Oh, we're flying Georgia May Jagger over from New York to dance to your song." So it was like mind was blown and stuff like that. And then it was like we were just signing things that we didn't really know what they were. So we always enjoyed creating and having that control over our own destiny, but I think ultimately that was probably our downfall at the same time.
Yeah, but it also gave you a taste of what marketing's about, and and where it can sell you when done properly.
That's it. I mean, when done, not like how we do.
So, Josh, you've done so many things in your career, which is about taking a risk, from starting a band, joining the corporate world, moving up within Kellogg's, to going to Bells. Has that been sort of driven by sort of family choices and family constraints?
I had my son when I was just a bit later than 24, so in the height of the chaos of doing the music and stuff like that. And I think I've got a daughter now who's 5. My son's, he's 11. I've had to try and get myself into a middle ground. I've always been at the extreme ends of things. It's always got to be like, I'm happy to move. I'm happy to do in the band. I'm going to try and do this and do that and do that, and I think that potentially takes its toll long term. So I think my focus is now trying to just actually get in the middle a little bit and just not be too. I have got 2 kids, and I bought a dilapidated house recently. Again, that was probably my propensity to risk. That I was like, yeah, we'll just do it. We'll sort that out later. So I think I'm trying to channel that energy into more, more measured things now. Which I think it's just growing up a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I don't know if I could get myself on a train and stay in an empty house in Manchester, and I think those days are probably.
I'm sure your house was never empty, mate. I'm sure it was full of life, though.
Oh yeah, there was plenty of life in it.
Yeah.
There was always music playing, and I think we had a bucket as a table and stuff. It was a flipped upside down bucket. And, we were scraping together to get a Chinese and stuff like that. And it's like, I look back at that fondly, because I think if you haven't had those experiences, you can't fully appreciate when, life gets a little bit better. And good. And I could have gone home. There was no, I could have gone back to my parents and stuff like that. But I was just determined not to go home. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to kind of, the streets were paved with a little bit of gold in Manchester and stuff like that. So I was
would
determined.
have thought that, eh?
Yeah. Well, look, how do you feel about it now? You look at the skyline, Bez. And
you know what? I was saying that earlier on, and the investment in this city is actually finally paid off.
Yeah.
The media city, where we are now, businesses are coming out of London. The rates we've had the MCV awards.
It seems like they're waking up to London not just being the centre of the universe in the UK, really. Yeah.
I actually once lived in London.
Yeah.
The place where I lived, it was the size of a shoe, but you couldn't swing a cat in the place. The chaise longue, my feet were touching the wall.
Chaise short.
Yeah. That sounds little a gaff wash, you know what I mean?
It sounds like quite bougie for you, though, a chaise longue.
Yeah, I like my old chaise longue. I've got a good chaise longue.
Never thought you'd say that. Would you like to ask your question?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about my question. Sorry, mate. All right, Josh, here we go. This is a big question for you. A lot of thought has gone into this. So I'm expecting the same thoughtful answer from you.
Yeah.
Anyway, free from food as a concept. Will it free us from the constraints of modern life and ultimately disrupt the bourgeois classes?
You wrote it.
Did I? The bourgeois classes that control the supply of big industry like wheat and such like, making the world a better place?
It's a great question.
Is it a good question?
Yeah, it's a great
I knew you'd like that
question. No, I do like that. And I've probably waited all my career to be asked that. This is it. Every time. I don't know if it'll totally disrupt the sort of the bourgeois, but I think there is something in little disruptors kind of owning little patches and chipping away at the sort of big ones that I think we're becoming is a positive thing. Yeah.
Well, when you're doing well, when them fellas are moving in to buy you out.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Yeah, because you are the competition.
Yeah, I mean, Bells of Lazonby is still family independently owned, and they've fiercely done that for 80 years, which I've got to give it to. I'm sure they've had many offers. Offers, but we wouldn't be having the fun we did if we were owned and having to.
Bow to the corporation.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got we've got great development chefs, we've got great salespeople, we've got 400 people on site. That's huge local employment, for very little unemployment locally. The smaller players that are going to continually do things right, both ethically and sort of, value and ethics wise, it will pay off.
Yeah, there'll always be a place for that.
So wrapping up now, Josh, have you got any burning questions for Bez?
I could probably fill several hours with these, but the biggest one that I wanted to ask is longevity. Bez, I think you've had obviously a great career doing many sort of facets. So what do you think's been the key to that success?
Well, you know what? I've been extremely lucky because one of my best mates is Mr. Sean Ryder.
Yeah,
and I've somehow rode along on his coattails in a way, as a friend.
Yeah.
But as I say, I like to think I played my role in it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And a little bit like yourself, I consider myself a bit of a marketing guy.
Yeah.
I've helped market the band and helped sell it to the public. And we're still doing it 40 years later, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah. I've got another one. So
is
that right?
Another.
So going on tour tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you see that as something that you enjoy, or do you find
I can't tell you how much I enjoy doing the job I do. because I'm going out with my friends, because we went to school together,
Yeah.
you know, we all from the same school, from the old same
Wow.
area.
Yeah.
So the camaraderie of being on the road,
Yeah.
you know, that feeling.
Yeah.
And we've gone through, as you know, in a band, things change with success, money.
Yeah.
There's lots of things what can get in the way of a good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But we've survived all the traumas, and we're still going after all these years, which I think it's an amazing feat. You know what I mean?
It's brilliant. As a younger man, many friends travel to Manchester due to the music scene that you had Sankey's and Warehouse.
Well, I got to take some credit for bringing people like yourself
well,
to
yeah,
Manchester.
yeah.
Entrepreneurs like yourself would never arrived in Manchester with the likes of the Happy Mondays, Oasis.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're helping with
Yeah,
it.
definitely. What does this is the city without its culture? You can have some amazing cities, but if they don't have the culture, and
I like to think we might have played a little small part.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the success of Manchester as a city itself in the
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah,
If you're
thrive.
not, I'm just like fucking kidding myself. Bigging myself up because no one else is going to do it.
Oh, we agree with that. Anyway, Josh, thank you very
Yes,
much.
Josh,
Yes,
thank you.
thanks
you,
again.
guys,
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Toodaloo.
Ciao for now.